But you watched Ricochet versus Gunther for the Intercontinental title.
I did, because you insisted that. Well, you said that you really liked it, so I thought that meant I should check it out.
And the people in the building liked it as well. And I thought because of this match, this actually was the best episode of SmackDown I've seen in a while, because this was the best match from any company I've seen. Well, MJF and Starks actually in a different way last week, because it meant more, because it was a main event. It was a heavily advertised thing. It's MJF is the top guy over there now. But for a match, this was better than anything that I've seen in a while. And I will be more than happy to tell you why. But I already feel like you're going, well, what are you talking about? What was different? So you didn't like it.
No, I thought it was good. And I thought, like you said, the crowd was into it. By the end of it, some of the reactions to the near falls were really good.
Okay, I thought
the fans believed it. The fans thought they were about to see it happen.
Yes. And that's the and again, they didn't have to do anything stupid or silly or unbelievable to get there. And that's why I thought you were going to poo-poo on it for a minute there. But that was my worry going in. Gunther, I've said, is always the perfect wrestler in that he always does and says and has matches like what you would think he would do, right? He doesn't do shit he shouldn't be doing. He doesn't let usually his opponents do shit that shouldn't be in that match. And I'm thinking, okay, can he make this plausible? The size difference is ridiculous, but with Ricochet being a good underneath underdog babyface when he's led, we've said this before, when he's in there with another flipper and they try to do flips, it's just silliness. But he can be led. And if it was anybody else but Gunther, they would have probably tried to feature all this fucking guy's gymnastics and not actually have him sell and fight and get the people with him. And it would have been a flippy match and blah. But this was, I had flashbacks to watching Ernie Ladd work with Ricky Morton in 1984 in Houston, where Ernie was ready to retire. That was his last year in the ring. His knees were shot. He was hurting. But in Houston, and what he meant, he was still going to go. And he got in and did more with Ricky Morton than he had to do for his status at the time. But it was all plausible. It made sense. There was a 12-inch height difference and a 130-pound weight difference. And by the time that Ernie took a bump off a drop kick, the people were standing and fucking screaming. But anyway, nevertheless, Gunther called this, make no mistake about it, because they're the only thing that I saw that I would take any style points away whatsoever is Ricochet is a little tentative because he's not used to this style match when a guy's feeding him his head without having it to be called, or these Gunther's over there and Ricochet's wailing on him. You can tell Gunther wants him to take the head a little bit before he does, or he wants him to kick him in the back of the head because he's feeding it or whatever. A little tentative in a couple places, but otherwise, they started out wrestling, and Gunther stayed in control most of the match. I wrote down a play-by-play because I wanted to see if they went wrong, and they didn't. Every time that Ricochet would swarm Gunther would stagger but not fall, and he would stop Ricochet with one high-impact move like a big boot or the chop or whatever. And through the first segment, which was 5 minutes, Gunther was yet to take a bump, but still Ricochet was in it. The idea was that Gunther, being the more dominant, physical, bigger guy, would control the tempo and what was going on, but that Ricochet would have flurries fighting back from underneath, trying to create space, use his quickness and agility to outsmart the bigger guy, blah, blah, blah. And when Ricochet would fight back from underneath, they came back from a break in a second segment, the people would get with him. But then Gunther would shut him back down with 2 chops and a body slam. Boom. And then he'd take his time. And he would continue to give hope spots, but never be in danger. He would wrestle like a heel and maul the face and fucking be surly in his attitude and keep the smaller guy fighting back but never taking over. And that's a key to it. Because again, and you couldn't, this match would work pretty much in a vacuum, but when you've got a guy like Ricochet that they're familiar with, that they want to see, do good, and like you said, that you can get them primed to where they think they're going to see the change, this is the kind of match that gets the people in the arena behind that guy and behind that story and believing they're going to see it, so that it comes across better on television, because there's a bunch of people screaming for this fucking guy. They're not sitting there on their hands like in most WWE matches. And when Gunther got the Boston Crab, Ricochet was actually able to fight and squirm out of it because he's a smaller guy. He's a little squirmy. And he would fight back and stagger Gunther. And then that's what I was talking about. He was fucking wailing on him, and Gunther fed him the head. He got the headlock, and Gunther hit the fucking Billy Robinson backbreaker. Fucking brilliant. And a 2 count, and went right back to the Boston Crab and then switched the crossface. He's still working the kid's back. He's trying to slow him down, either the legs or the back. And Ricochet got a rope break. And I wrote down, this is great. And then Gunther manhandles him into a rear naked choke. And that's, if you watch Gunther's hand and arm action, when he lays hands on a guy, when he grabs a guy, his hands are so big anyway. But he doesn't just put his hand on somebody, expect him to fucking follow him around. He grabs them. You can hear when he lays his hands on somebody or when he snatches them, he's doing it in a working way, but at the same time, it looks like he's being physical. And then he started kicking it up at this point in the match, chopped the shit out of Ricochet in the corner. But then Ricochet would duck one and fire back. Boom, 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 had him staggering all over the place, drop kicked him into the corner. Gunther still has not taken a bump off of Ricochet. And then, again, Ricochet goes for the suplex. Gunther turns it into a gourd buster, then hits a big drop kick. Goes for the power bomb. Ricochet turns it into a Hurricane Rana, takes Gunther over the top rope, and he lands on his feet on the floor off of the apron. And then Ricochet comes off the apron with a drop kick, and Gunther finally takes a bump on the floor. 15 minutes into the match, Ricochet jumps up and fires up, and the people are with it. And then Ricochet hits his springboard moonsault, and Gunther takes another bump. And now they're, holy shit. And they go, there's their break spot. They're going again to another segment. And they come back. And Ricochet hits another dive to the floor, and Gunther goes down again. But then as Ricochet goes to the top, Gunther catches him and it goes up after him and gives him a German suplex off the top rope. Ricochet lands on his feet. He does the backflip over him. That was impressive because it was the counter to a fucking move this huge guy had given him, and Gunther turns around and sells like he's astonished that this could fucking happen. And Ricochet hits a leaping knee lift, but Gunther catches him with the big boot and clothesline. 2 count. Big pop. They're not going through furniture. They're not burying the referee. They're not fucking doing ridiculous things that would require hospitalization. They're doing wrestling moves and getting covers and near falls, and people are into it. And Ricochet was selling like he was dead, and Gunther goes for that just big splash off the top. Not a shooting star press, not a spinning, turning triple Lindy. A big splash from a big fucking 260-pound fucking guy. But he eats Ricochet's boot because the quick little kid's more resourceful. And then Ricochet does hook up and get a vertical suplex on this big bastard. And the place blows for a vertical suplex and a 2 count. And then Ricochet goes to the top. And he is the flippy guy, so he hits the shooting star press. Boom! And it looks like it hurts him too. And he covers. 1, 2. Gunther kicks out. Big pop again. And now Ricochet's going crazy with the chops and the lefts and the rights to Gunther's face, and Gunther's rocked and staggering and drunk-legged. But he's not taking a million bumps. But Ricochet is in control finally. And then Ricochet hits 2 super kicks, and it staggers him. And he goes for a drop kick, and Gunther chops him down, bam! Snatches him up and power bombs him. Top spread, 1, 2. He kicks out. The people are standing on their fucking feet. And Gunther gets pissed, like you would, and throws a fit. He's beating the mat. I can't believe it. And he pulls Ricochet up to his knees, and Ricochet reaches up and slaps the big bastard in the face and drops back down, selling to his knees. He's shot, but he's not going to go down like a fucking dog. And Gunther slaps him back and pulls him up into a big fucking twisting power slam, boom, 1, 2, 3. What a fucking 26 minutes from the start of the entrances to the finish, and it never got old. If they'd have had picture-in-picture on this instead of all the shitty stuff I would have watched the picture-in-picture on this. I loved it. Hold on here 1 second. Wait a minute.
Well, you've always felt that way about Gunther, or Walter, whatever he was at the time. Does this at all change the way you see Ricochet?
Well, yeah, not really, because I've said before, he'd be a great kid's baby face. And he's a great underdog. He's a great athlete. And he's small, so you've got to use that. And he's got to use that to his advantage rather than detriment. But he gets hung up on the gymnastics when he's in there with somebody that either does the same thing or doesn't know how to call a match like Gunther. Then that becomes all that it is just the flipping and the flipping and the flipping and the contrived flipping. But in this one, Gunther made the people see this guy as a gutsy guy that's going to fight back from underneath and going to slap the big fucker in the face. And that translates more than the flips and the gymnastics. That's for the shine part of the match. That's for the, blah, blah, blah. It's great for television some. But to really make the guy important, he needs to be put in positions like this where they can care about him, feel sorry for him, and want to see him overcome adversity, because the fucking high wire or the trapeze in the circus only goes 5 or 10 minutes. This went 26.
So you're not against the flips, you're just against them being used in a way that's...
It's in a way that's ridiculous, overdone, contrived, choreographed, silly, or in a more modern wrestling style.
But when it's story-based, when it's something that's telling the story of a match and used right like this, you have no problem with it.
If he did about 1/10 of the amount of acrobatics he does, and it was always in matches like this that counted, he would have a career about 10 times as long and be 10 times as over. Because you tune out when the guy just does everything, but when he does shit like this, when it matters, either the fucking backflip off the top or the goddamn Hurricane Rana where he took the guy over the top rope with him and then hit him with the drop kick, shit like that. As the high spots, that's where the name came from. High spots are both supposed to be the high spots of the match, not the steady content of the match. That's when he appeals to everybody, not just the trampoline wrestling fan set. Because everybody does that. But not everybody can have a match like this.
And some of the people who want to do that need a trampoline, apparently.
Absolutely. Yes. Is that coming up? No, actually, there was more.